So as Southern California begins to assess the damage from the recent fires, plans are being put together to rebuild. The first few homes have sold in the fire damaged areas. I have the details on those. And politicians are lining up like pigs in a trough to get in on the development plans for the future. Unfortunately, the same people that created most of the mess are at the front of the plans to solve the problems, and it never works. What's going on? I'm Bill Gross. This is my weekly real estate market update, and we're gonna get together and talk about where the plans are headed for rebuilding in Southern California and why I believe as we stand now, we are really in big trouble. Before that, let's take a look at where see the market is. Despite all the excitement and changes and going on politically, nationally, politically in California, surprisingly, the economy is doing pretty well. Here we are. In any economy, you have both supply and demand, buyers and sellers. On the buyer side, it's mostly interest rates, and rates stay about 7.03%. So they've been pretty flat for the last week or so. You can see they've been about the middle of where they've been for the last year. So we're at a good rate for the market overall going forward at these rates for buyers to consider buying. And unless rates jump up dramatically, I believe the rates will be sufficient to help buyers buy more houses as they become available. On the inventory side, sellers, inventory still drops. Now this is common this time of year. We're in early February. These numbers are back from January. And so normally we still see December, January numbers drop of homes for sale, and then it will start to turn back up with the spring buying season. But again, notice we're below every single year other than pandemic levels. So we still have a historically low inventory. Home prices cannot go down dramatically overall. Maybe they will in California. We'll talk about that. But nationally, home prices can't go down tremendously as long as there is low inventory. Overall, the market in Los Angeles continues to be a seller's market, not as strong as it was a year ago, but still overall a seller's market. This is Altos Research. They do a great job providing all of the data points into one, and they have what they call a market action number, and it's a 37. You can see it's been on the rise a little bit from 35 to 36 to 37 over the last few weeks. That means it's a slight seller's market, a little more so than before, not a buyer's market. Again, that's here in Los Angeles, in the city and county of Los Angeles. So overall, our market's still pretty healthy as far as Los Angeles and in general Southern California. Now, the first couple of homes have started to sell post-fire. I was really excited to see my colleague, or former colleague, I guess I would say, Richard Shulman, sold a property in the Palisades. This was a lot. You can see the house before it was burned down, and then after, it's on one of those streets where every house is burned down on both sides of the street, both sides of the block. So here you're not buying just a normal teardown, you're buying a house where if you rebuild it, you're the first house maybe on the block, there's no schools around, maybe no services around. This particular property has sold for $1.5 million back in 2005. It's a nice sized lot, just under 10,000 square foot lot, very big and buildable. I would have estimated it would sell for about $2 million pre-fire, and now it's going for slightly under $1 million. So this home seller probably lost about $1 million on the lot value, not counting the personal property or cars or anything else. Probably the lot there, they lost about $1 million, even if it was a teardown. Now, I don't know about the quality of the house inside. I suspect it was a teardown. But again, in round numbers, owners of those lots lost a lot. Even teardowns lost a portion of the value. And this is the first escrow I'm aware of. It was posted on Realtor.com. So we're starting to see the first couple sales. Now, there are rules preventing unsolicited offers. In this case, they solicit offers and put out in the MLS. This particular property is back in the summit part of the Palisades, so kind of way at the farthest northernmost, westernmost section of the Palisades. Not like on the beach areas, but again, still an area that was highly desirable. And I think overall, it's a shame. It's a shame when any homeowner loses that kind of money. And so what do we do going forward? Well, the city of LA, I think, there's a famous Albert Einstein saying, which is that you can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking that we used when we created the problem, right? This is also famously quoted in 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous. And what that means is the same politicians who caused the planning and didn't allow for the removal of forestation and didn't check the water fire hydrants, for them to be the people who are going to solve the problem of planning going forward probably is not going to work. Now, our governor, what's he done? Well, famously so far, his most dramatic legislation since the fires was, he came up with $50 million to fight President Trump. So here President Trump comes to California to offer help and aid. And basically, Governor Newsom is rounding up the Democrats to say, we're going to fight the federal government. At the same time, they're going to ask for billions of dollars of assistance. So there's one contribution a governor's making. Another one, and I think this is just the philosophy of the governor. I don't think, he's authentic to who he is as a person, his beliefs. And here he explains that he's not going to allow Pacific Policy's property builders to rebuild. Now, again, him not allowing it, who the hell is he? Right? I thought it was America, a free country, but not in California. He won't allow property owners to rebuild. He said you can't rebuild the same. We have to rebuild with science, whatever that means. He's not a scientist. He's not a biologist. He's not a ecologist. He's not an environmental science major. He's just a political hack. And then he says we have to build with climate reality in mind, not saying anything about whether we should be cutting back forestry and doing more maintenance and getting rid of the dead trees or admitting any of the problems of the past. Really, when you listen to him, it's that he's solving the problem because of his ingenuity and his knowledge, and yet you look back on his track record, not very reassuring. In Los Angeles, the leader of our rebuilding effort, you would think would be the mayor, but she kind of admits that she's incompetent. So she's hiring an outside entity. She's hiring a very expensive consultant from Illinois to be the fire recovery process director. It's a consulting firm. And this particular politician, his main success to date was he took part in the George Soros funded mayor's program. He appointed the first city equity officer, where he's from, and he signed a resolution to recognize that his city's land was stolen from Native Americans by white colonizers. So you can imagine that those people who believe that the Palisades was stolen Indian land are going to love this guy. But I think those of you who want to rebuild your houses out there are going to be disappointed that you're not going to get really an ally in that process. Now, specifically for rebuilding, there's a name that was bandied about, Steve Sobroff. Steve Sobroff famously developed the Playa Vista development down just north of the airport. Beautiful development. If you ever go there, it's a great little place for stopping in for coffee. There's a couple of restaurants in there. Famously, he developed that land. It was a political football because of the wetlands. And he was going to do this as a public service, getting paid $500,000 for 3 months' work. That translates to about $2 million a year salary rate. So here's a guy who's going to help us all, but we have to pay him $2 million a year rate, $500,000 for a quarter, to lead that. And Richard Grinnell, who's a federal consultant for the White House, said he found that to be offensive and that he's not getting any money, like Elon Musk is not getting any money, but to bring in a wealthy person to fix this crisis seems to be a bit much. What are your thoughts on paying Steven Sobroff $500,000? Well, it doesn't really matter because it turns out so many other people thought that that was disgusting that Steven Sobroff agreed to not work for anything. So he originally was going to, I'm sorry, this is the wrong article. This was his best known tweet nationally was, he was saying Trump supporters are too white. Of course, he himself is white. I think that's kind of ironic. But yeah, later he acknowledged that $500,000 for 3 months' work was disgusting. And so he agreed to work for free. Now, think about that for a second. Who works for free? Who can afford to work for free? Well, it's somebody who probably is going to get paid some other way. And so one thing about these government officials is they can work for their salary. Like, why does Maxine Waters get paid about $150,000 a year as a congressperson, but live in a $10 million mansion? The answer is they work for a small salary. That's the Trump money. The real money is all the grift and all the payola and all the money that goes to their spouses and their kids and such. And so Steve Sobroff has been around the pig trough of LA long enough to know that he doesn't need to take a salary. He can have other organizations pay him the money. So he agrees to work for free. So we shall be relieved that he's going to bypass his $2 million rate salary and he's going to now do it free. Dr. Human Hamadi pointed out that he'll get repaid with cushy board and advisory positions. Everybody knows that. So making him the recovery czar. But why do we need, here's a question that he asked though, why do we need a recovery czar? We have a mayor. We have city council members. We have planning departments. With all these people getting paid millions of dollars, what else are they doing? I mean, in the areas the houses are being burned down, theoretically, they're doing nothing. Can't they get together and put a plan together? The answer is no. The answer is it's just a joke. They're just a big jobs program, and they're not worth anything at all. And just to show you how I think the scam is on, here's Steve Sabroff, who I guess is going to be the rebuilding czar. And he did this interview, and he basically says, don't trust the DWP. Even where the DWP says the water's safe, don't trust them. Now, I can see somebody saying, hey, the DWP water's not safe, let's turn it off. Right? If the recovery czar, you turn off the water if it's not safe, you turn it back on when it's safe. But here he is basically telling his listeners of this meeting of the higher ups, hey, I don't care what they tell you, the water's not safe. Well, that's kind of scary. During COVID, that was called misinformation. Is he telling people not to drink tap water? Is he making that up? Does he not know the answer and he's just making himself seem important? To me, very troubling that a man who was going to get paid at around $2 million a year to rebuild our city is telling us not that one of the largest departments, the DWP, Department of Water Power, isn't to be trusted with the quality of the water. And maybe he's right. But then he should be shutting down the water supply and telling us not to drink the water, not saying it quietly on some stupid Zoom call to donors and future. Then he said in this interview, he goes on and says, well, if you want to give money to help victims of the wildfires, you should donate to, and the organization he mentions is this one, the California Community Foundation, which sounds very, California Community Foundation. Sounds great, right? Well, just a little research on that group. Their CEO makes $800,000 a year. He probably has several other jobs. This organization only takes in $5 to $10 million a year total. And they have 100 other employees or more on top of his $800,000. So I'm wondering, with 100 employees, how much they paying in salaries to the 100 employees that they have for $5 million or $10 million? Is there any money going to any victims? And this is how these charities work. Unfortunately, so many charities today are really just get-rich schemes for the people who run it. And I think Steve Sabroff is basically admitting that DWP is a joke, and he points us to an organization that's a joke, or a pathetic example of the use of your money with people who are, displaced without homes. And he's saying give the money to an organization where the CEO makes $800,000 a year, and it seems to me they spend the majority of their money on their employees' salaries. So what's all this mean for you? Well, I think at the end of the day, be careful with where you donate your money for victims. And when somebody who seems to be in the know, a former political leader like Steve Sabroff, be careful, hold on to your wallet. These people don't look at the fires as a problem to solve. This is their business. This is the biggest business opportunity of politicians' lifetimes. To rebuild such beautiful property is an opportunity for them to get paid, to hire their friends, their family, the organizations that have supported them. And so we really should be thinking about watching this very carefully and raising the standards of our expectations of the people who are doing this. And if not, I'm afraid people are going to lose. You've already lost money if your house burned down. You already lost money if you're waiting for your insurance claim, but you're going to lose more money if you donate to bad organizations or you expect your city to help you out of this mess. What do you see? I'm concerned, but I'd love to hear your notes, your ideas. Give me your comments, like or don't like this, subscribe if you like more of this. I'm at Bill Gross Probate. Call, text, or email me if I can help in any way. And today, make it your best day ever. Thanks so much.